Thank you. And thanks so much to the Neptune Mountaineering, particularly Gary Neptune, who's here in the audience, who started this amazing collection, including my favorite, which is the toe from one of their associates there. So you'll have to check this out, plus the sour toe cocktail recipe for that. Association. Our job is to preserve ski history and heritage, and we've been doing it since 1991. Now, of course, I could tell you about the history of Lapland. In this book right here, the long gliding ski is on the left, and the pushing ski is on the right. We can all talk about this for hours and hours, and it'd be like a history lesson. But I like to prefer, what I prefer to talk about is more the more interesting part of skiing history. And so what I'd like to focus on is polar exploration, which couldn't have been done without skis, crazy ski gizmos, some of which really didn't make it, and you'll see why shortly. Weird lifts to nowhere, loony cartoons, and what I like to call must-ski TV. First, a little about myself. I'm in the Explorers Club based in New York. I've written 2 books, one on expeditions and the other on voluntourism. And I also write a newsletter called Expedition News, which is free. You can see it online at expeditionnews.com. And I go back to the days of skiing when you used to get your name in the paper because you went skiing. And this is a publicity photograph from the 60s. This was taken at Davos. Silly me. I thought that Davos, Switzerland was named after Davos ski area in the Borscht Belt, otherwise known as the Sour Cream Sierras, where I grew up. Let's see, I'm the third from the left. And you know, when I was preparing this talk, I took a closer look at this publicity photograph and I said, well, here's my dad, and he was the only one with buckle boots, and these are hankies. And of course, with hankies, the motto was, you lace while I race. Me, on the other hand, I was wearing a polar bear on my hands here. And I don't know what I was thinking, but talk about crazy ski products, this could be one of those. And then I was in another publicity photograph. This appeared in the Long Island Press. Again, set up the shot. Here he is. You know, Marvin and his son Jeff, they're in the paper. Why are they in the paper? Wow, because they went skiing. And I looked at this picture a little closer, and if you'll notice the ski patrollers, his name is Werner Kuhn. If you look a little closer there, he couldn't even bother to buckle his bear trap bindings. Actually, he was just in street shoes for this picture. So these are the things you notice when you pull together a talk. And then finally, in my sordid history and ski promotion, this was during the New York City ski show. I got roped into leading a group of dogs on a dog sled on wheels so that Miss Snowflake could help open the New York City ski show. So these are the kinds of experiences that I had in skiing. I've been a lifelong skier, and then when I got the chance to write for Skiing History magazine, I could really delve into things that particularly interest me. And polar expedition. Being a member of the Explorers Club in New York, I'm just totally fascinated by these polar explorers. This is Norwegian polar explorer Fridtjof Nansen. There's a picture of Nansen right behind me. Nansen is known for cross-country skiing across the Greenland ice cap in 1888. And here's a Google Doodle from him that was seen around the world. What wasn't seen around the world, Nansen, when he got a little older, he had a Norwegian-American girlfriend in the United States. And this is what you don't know. This is why you'd be happy you came here tonight. Nansen was, before I tell you what that was, here's what Nansen said about skiing. He wrote, "Skiing is the most national of all sports. And what a fantastic sport it is, too. If any sport deserves to be called the sport of all sports, it's surely this one." Well, okay. Except Nansen had this girlfriend in America, and he was sending naughty pictures. Now, I was in the Oslo Museum, and I saw this on the wall, and I said to myself, this can't be. And the curator of the museum was giving me a tour. She said, Google it. So I did. And at the age of 28, Manson was a very bad boy. Well, that brings us to Robert F. Scott. Robert F. Scott used skis. Scott was passionate about getting to the South Pole. And if you know the story of polar exploration, his main competitor was Roald Amundsen. I just saw it in the back of the store here today. There's an Amundsen ski with his picture on it. Roald Amundsen. Scott was deeply depressed because when he got to the South Pole, what did he find? He found Amundsen's tent. And not only that, he found a letter that Amundsen left that said, please deliver this to the Norwegian king. And so Robert F. Scott and his team, severely depressed that they were beaten to the South Pole, they died on the return, and Amundsen went on to do other exploration. This beefy hunk of man is Peter Freuchen. He stood 6 feet 7 inches tall, and somehow they make his third wife look extra small in this picture. Well, he crossed the Greenland ice sheet on skis, but he's better known for the resourcefulness that he exhibited during a polar ski exploration. He was trapped under his sled, couldn't get out. He had no way to get out. And he thought, how am I going to ever survive being trapped into my sled? And he remembered local Inuits would make tools out of their, excuse the expression, poop. He fashions a poop chisel, waits for it to freeze, and he gets himself out of his entrapment with a poop chisel. And this is 1926. If you go to the Explorers Club now, this grand old gentleman of the Explorers Club love to tell this story. And there he is. He has a peg leg because he got frostbite, and to survive, had to eat part of his leg to survive. So if you want to Google Peter, by the way, this gets funnier as we move on. So hang in there with me. Polar exploration. I was honored to be part of the support team for this Trans-Antarctica expedition, 3,741 miles across Antarctica with dog sleds and cross-country skis. And by the way, at the South Pole, there is a pole at the South Pole, and these are the kinds of skis that you use with extra wide bindings to support the bunny boots that you wear, the big white boots at the South Pole. And talk about a test track, I mean, it doesn't get more serious than to go cross-country skiing to the South Pole with a pair of skinny skis. But they did it, and this is a picture of Richard Webber in 2010. So, I'm always looking for great story ideas, and I thought, well, maybe I can write about some ski products that perhaps didn't really make it for one reason or another. And that brings me to these Graves, the fiberglass ski. When you had a pair of Graves skis and you had your feet together, as we skied, years ago, it felt like a couple of plastic dishes that were rattling below you. I donated my Graves skis to a friend of mine. The skis fell into his wood-burning stove, and the sight is not pretty. When you have a pair of fiberglass skis, that's what it looked like when it fell into his stove. But that also brings me to one of the world's greatest products that never made it. And here we go, totally prepped up. This is the ski wing. This is the ski wing. So this was sent to me. The way this works is you hold it like this. It comes in a convenient pouch you can wear around your waist. Okay, is it upside down? No, perfect. The ski wing. So as you're skiing, you go like this, and you can go straight down a hill, and it will slow you up. Actually, I've got to go behind me like this and slow. Anyway, I tried it once. People in the top of the lift at Eldora were going, "Hey, butterfly man!" And I said, "That's it for ski wings. No more with ski wings anymore." So that's just I'll donate them to Gary's Museum, perhaps. How about this idea? You want to ski with music? Who doesn't want to ski with music? Well, you can buy the Astral Tube. It was an 8-track deck that you strap to your chest. 8 tracks, they go in the cars, kind of things like that. Just right to your chest. Well, luckily for that, because then you would lean over like this, the thing was so heavy. So this was before we had iPods, iTunes. Oh, and then if you got thirsty, you had to have a Boda bag. Now, I just bought this, and unfortunately it leaked in my bag, so not happy about that. But think about COVID. Think about the pandemic. What a great way to share wine. It's like that. Now, a friend of mine was a ski patroller. He came upon an accident scene. Red snow everywhere. Well, the Boda bag, full of wine, broke. And so he thought maybe the day of the Boda bag, they still sell Boda bags, by the way. So I'll put that over here with the ski wings. So in doing my research, I went to Carbondale and I went to Vintage Ski Worlds, where they have 800 pairs of skis and hundreds of boots. And I talked to this gentleman, Richard Allen, and Richard Allen showed me some of his favorite products that perhaps never really made it before. In this case, this is Dale boots that were made of magnesium, which is great because if you get lost in the backwoods, you can light your boots on fire like a magnesium flare and get rescued. How about this idea? When you're of a certain age and you've skied, you all know the rope toe. We all remember, those of us of a certain age remember the rope toe. Because every time you were on a rope toe, it usually left bits of rope under your armpit. I found my oldest sweater so I could demonstrate that. But if you had a rope toe gripper, it's perfect. And these are not as easy as you think they are. You needed instructions on how to use your rope toe. You fasten your belt, you hold the gripper, you grasp the gripper firmly in your left hand. These are instructions on how to get on a rope toe. Thank God we don't have that many rope toes today, although I do like to ride them from time to time. How about this idea? A campfire in your pocket. A campfire. Just burn alcohol in your pocket. Perfect. Your left side is on fire and your right side is getting frostbite. Great product. And how about this? The jet skis. So you can lean back on your boots. I don't know how many injuries that caused. Oh, and how about this? How fast are you skiing? How do you tell how fast you're skiing? You literally wear a box on your arm, and the wind pushes that little red needle forward. Accurate, maybe not so much. I actually had a pair of these on. They wanted to sell a comfortable downhill ski boot. Unfortunately, it didn't really work, but it was comfortable. It was comfortable, except for these iron rods that went up your calf. So this was the Naviski boat binding system. These are crazy gizmos that you might be hard-pressed to see anymore. And then, of course, how can we do without sled dogs? Who needs skis when you've got sled dogs? And you used to buy these boots. They're still available. And you don't need skis. Think of the convenience of that. No ski racks. You don't have to sharpen anything. It's right on your feet. So that's another crazy product. And if you get thirsty and your Boda bag is leaking, put alcohol in your ski pole. What a terrific idea. Who came up with this idea? And it came with a free brush so that you could actually clean the inside of your ski pole. And if you get thirsty, or usually for alcohol, you would go, and here's a two-handed snow scooter. Now, if you can't figure out how to snowboard, we've got that figured out. We've got training wheels. Well, two handles on a pair of snowboards. The snot spot. Now, this isn't a bad idea. You put this on your hand, and of course, everybody gets runny noses, and instead of trying to wipe your nose with stiff Cordura, you could get this nice little piece of fleece on your wrist. I don't want to see it at the end of the day, though, but there you go. And tinkle tabs. What an idea this was. Tinkle tabs. This is for women who are in one-piece jumpsuits. And they come and they sit down in the bathroom and, so that their sleeves don't get on the dirty bathroom floor. they get snapped up. Perfect. And oh, please save us from this. Moon bikes, the world's first totally electric snow bikes. This is new, and this is out there. So don't even talk to me about this one. So the joy of being outside and skiing opens the mind and the spirit to ideas, including dreaming up new inventions. I think a lot of people have way too much time sitting on chairlifts coming up with some of these ideas. And you know, the best idea for me, if you could make these hot dogs taste good at the 7-Eleven on the way up into the mountains, that would be a ski product I think we all need. Then I studied lifts, crazy lifts. I got 3 to share with you. Lifts that went nowhere. This is a story ripped out of the pages of Skiing History magazine. The Mount Hood Skyway. These are 2 city buses that were retrofitted for Mount Hood. And it lasted 8 years. One reason for that is it could only handle, each bus could only handle 72 skiers per hour. So you think Vail has got a problem with lift lines and their back bowls, trying to go to Mount Hood in the early 50s. And the lift lines are these. It didn't last long. And then this is the clickety-clack at Mount Snow in Vermont. This, somebody saw a conveyor belt in a factory and thought this would be perfect for a ski area. Well, not so perfect if you're wearing ski clothes, because in warmer temperatures, these wheels would leak grease all over your outfit. So not a great idea. But still to this day, how about the Roca Jack? You need 5 of your closest friends for this one. And there's no monkeying around on this. This is like a T-bar for 5 people. And you'll find this still to this day in Portillo. Then I studied. So, you know, I could go back and talk about 1673, but this is way more interesting. How about how they named ski lifts? I'm sorry, trails. How do they name trails? If you want to encourage more people skiing, why would you name a trail Jaws of Death? Why would you call it Organ Grinder or Exterminator? Or in this case, anybody ski Body Bag at Crested View? Yeah, that's Body Bag. And what about Widowmaker? How about a trail name like that? But the more unusual trail name is one at Taos in New Mexico, named after Nazis. Named after good Nazis. The good Nazis that tried to kill Hitler. So they have the Stauffenberg Trail, and they have 2 other trails based on the story of this movie which Tom Cruise appeared in, Valkyrie. But one of my favorite trail names happened in Alta. It happened in 1973. I happened to have been there skiing. Avalanche came ripping through between Alta and Snowbird, and we had to spend 3 days in the Cliff Lodge in the basement because of this avalanche. Well, the avalanche ripped through a housing trailer when 2 people were getting quite friendly with each other at that time. So that today, to this day, that slide is called Valerie's Climax. So these are very creative ways of naming trails. Now, when animators took a look at skiing, it didn't wind up very favorable for the sport of skiing. It didn't end up well when animators said, hey, let's do some cartoons about skiing. Well, you know what's going to happen here. It's not good. When Goofy goes skiing, you know, all hell breaks out. So stand back when Goofy's skiing. And how about this? How about this animation? You have a caveman and a man from the future both skiing at the same time in this cell. And of course Popeye and Olive Oyl skied, and Tom and Jerry, they had cartoon skiing. And how about this one? Let's make fun of a blind skier. Okay, well, we can't do that very much anymore, but Magoo goes skiing. It was the funniest cartoon of the year, or so they say. Now this, in terms of ingenuity, Wile E. Coyote, he had it made because he didn't need snowmaking. He brought his own snowmaking machine with him when he skied, and that's there. And of course, He did that with the help of purchases from the Acme Corporation. Now, when you are a coyote going after a roadrunner, you're going to need this stuff. You're going to need the amble, of course. Got to have an amble. You got to have a bomb. And it all came from the Acme Corporation. Thank you for that. Now, television. You want to talk to me about cutting the cord? I'll show you how to cut the cord. This is how you cut the boy over here is going, what's that? Wow, you don't wear it. Wow, let's cut the cord. So that brings me in the mood to talk about how skiing has been depicted on television. And hopefully these videos will work. If not, we'll do it at the end. But it worked in rehearsal. So Muskie TV. Well, but first, we got to get in the mood to watch television. And of course, to do that, you had to have your Swanson TV dinners. Now you notice the cost of that was only 89 cents. Or maybe it was 68 cents. Or maybe it was 80, no, I'm not sure how much it cost, but it's 68, thank you. And it had all the main food groups. Fried chicken, whipped potatoes, mixed vegetables. Why don't we have these today? Why did they bring these back? Got to bring these back. And you can also go exotic with Polynesian style on your TV dinners. And of course, my favorite, all-time favorite, was the turkey TV dinner. I like this. Mostly white meat. Mostly not white meat. Mostly mystery meat. But it actually came with dessert. So here's a full, complete meal for when you're watching television. So to do my research, I went to the Paley Center for Media in New York, where there are 160,000 television and radio programs and ads. And I spoke to this gentleman from my alma mater, from Syracuse University. And he studied culture. And he says that I can think of nothing better than skiing as the basis for physical comedy. It's an entire environment waiting for slapstick. It's like slipping on a banana peel, so naturally. In most of the sitcoms from the 60s, the 70s, and 80s, there was at least one scene where they go skiing. Because skiing has lots of comedic possibilities. There's gravity, which works against the skier. There's the romance involved to go away to ski. It's not something you do in your backyard. So, one of the earliest sitcoms that dealt with skiing was Topper, which some of your older members in the audience may remember. Topper was predicated on the fact that the Kirbys died in an avalanche. Hilarious, right? And there's Ann Jeffries and Robert Sterling in Topper, the 1953 pilot, and their sidekick, who had also died with them, was Neil, the alcoholic St. Bernard. And in these episodes, they came back to haunt the owner of their old house. And the running gag on this was that they died in an avalanche. Not funny. The Dick Van Dyke Show. You remember this from the 60s. We are going to try and play that video. This episode was called Don't Trip Over That Mountain, an entire episode. And then later in the episode, so, you know, it's a wonder we had 61 million skier visits last year with TV shows like this. And it keeps continuing. One of the most famous broken legs in popular skiing history happened to Lucille Ball. So imagine being Lucille Ball and seeing your x-rays in every newspaper across the country. So again, skiing was the punching bag. It was the focus of jokes up and down the media landscape, including an entire episode about Lucille Ball. She couldn't move because she had a broken leg. And so the episode took place in her hospital room. And then, of course, there's Charlie's Angels. And how could we not focus on at least one skiing episode of Charlie's Angels? Skiing. But in all these shots, someone was always getting hit in the arm. Never any worse than just being hit in the arm. And they were always shooting out tires. One of my favorites, as we get closer to the end of this talk, is from Cheers. And when the Syracuse University professor who talked about the conspiratorial nature of going skiing, it's no better exemplified than this clip from Cheers. But in the history of skiing, something that I know a little bit about, and my co-writers, that Skiing History magazine since 1991, 1991. In the history of skiing, nothing's worse than the image of skiing than what I'm about to show you next. So let's see. It's amazing that skiing survived, and people are paying $2.20 for a lift ticket. But that brings us to Vinko Bordachaj. And there he is today. And there...
program. It would have on one side the thrill of victory, and on the other, its inevitable companion, the agony of defeat.
I think you know what's coming.
And as long as wide world of sports and viewers, that will always be the breathtaking leap of Vinko Bogota. Vinko owns a special, if negative, place in American sport, a prominence he never found in his homeland. He lives a quiet life in northern Yugoslavia, a husband, father of 2 teenage daughters. He remains involved in ski jumping, but the great love of his life is now painting. The walls of his home are covered with paintings of his native Slovenia. But Vinko's historic jump is 2 countries away in Oberstdorf, Germany. 21 years later, he finally returned to the place where he became famous by accident.
Now we go to Vinko Bogota, the Yugoslavian youngster. He's inexperienced, he fell on his first jump. A lot of speed in that track still. Look at him go!
Oh. Ooh.
Oh, baby.
Ooh.
What a terrible fall!
Vinko has replayed that nightmare jump thousands of times in his mind, about as many times as it has opened the wide world. He'll never know for sure what went wrong, but it has taught him the most basic rule of sport.
The difference between victory and defeat in sports is well said in the thoughts of Jim McKay, because the difference between the two can be very slight. All sportsmen should know that.
And he remembers his earlier jump that fateful day, perhaps the leap of a lifetime, not a nightmare, but a dream come true.
Big jump for Vinko Bogota. He's looking up at his 410 feet.
So don't look at skiing history as something that's dry. It can be absolutely fascinating, as I've spent part of my career trying to track. I'm Jeff Blumen. Get sponsored as one of the books, Travel with Purpose and Expedition News. There are copies of skiing history for you all there. There's a discount card in the back of the room if you're interested in subscribing to the magazine. And again, I want to thank Neptune for hosting this talk. Thank you. And the computer worked. What an amazing thing.
We got all the way through there. All right, Jeff, thank you so much. Jeff, I'm going to send you to the very front of the store so that once we finish the raffle, if folks have questions or want